Welcome back. We are doing notes 0.4 right now, which is essentially the same thing as yesterday or notes 0.3. We are just going to practice factoring by grouping a little bit more. So we're just going to jump right into it. We've got 4 terms here. We need to mark our groups. So group 1 will be my first 2 terms and group 2 will be my second 2 terms. I need to work on finding the GCF for my first group. The biggest number that goes into 8 and 64 is 8. And I pick the exponent that is smaller, so between x to the third and x squared, the smaller is x squared. So I will be dividing by 8x squared. 8 divided by 8 is 1. X to the third divided by x squared is x to the first. Remember, you're subtracting your exponents. Minus 64 divided by 8 is 8. And the x squareds can cancel each other out. Bring down the sign in the middle of your groups. And the GCF between 8 and x is just a 1. They don't actually have anything in common other than a 1. So when I divide by 1, nothing actually happens. It just stays as 8 minus x. Now I can see that these match. So I can factor that out, pull out the x minus 8. And then my leftovers, the 8x squared plus 1, goes into your other parentheses. So we have our answer, x minus 8 times 8x squared plus 1. Number 2, my GCF between 12 and 21, so that's group 1. I know that the answer is 3, but let's just say you forgot how to find GCFs using your brains. Luckily, you have your calculators. And if I go to my calculator app, remember from the notes 0.3, you can click Math, go over to Num, and choose option 9. And type your 2 numbers in with a comma in the middle. Just make sure you're typing your numbers as positive numbers. Because if you put a negative in, it's going to make the answer, it's going to say it's invalid. So 12, comma 21. Hit enter and it says 3. So my GCF of those 2 numbers is 3. And then again, pick your smaller exponent, so that would be p squared. So I'm dividing by 3p squared and I'm getting 4p minus 7. Bring down the plus sign. Divide by my GCF for group 2. To find the GCF of 28 and 49, I can use my brain or I could use my calculator. I know that it is 7. There is no variable in this GCF because the 49 does not have a variable with it. So it's just a 7 that I'm dividing by. So when I divide, I put my answer in parentheses, giving me 4p minus 7 again. And look at that, they match again, so factor that out. Pull out the 4p minus 7, and I'm left with 3p squared plus 7. So that is my answer, 4p minus 7 times 3p squared plus 7. Just a reminder, if you wanted to check your work to see if you're getting the correct answer, you could always double distribute to make sure you end up with the question that we started with. So I'll show you an example of that. So just to check the work, I can double distribute. So that's 4p times 3p squared. That gives me 4 times 3, that's 12p to the third. 4p times 7, that's 28p. Negative 7 times 3p squared is negative 21p squared. And negative 7 times 7 is negative 49. So this is the question we started with. It's just that the terms in the middle are backwards now, but it's still equivalent. So that shows us that our answer is in fact correct. Okay, so I'm just going to go through these next few questions, the rest of the notes, and get you your answers. And hopefully you are able to do these correctly on your own. So my GCF for my first group in number 3, this is my first group, 12x cubed plus 2x squared. The GCF of that is 2x squared. So I can divide by 2x squared, and I'm left with 6x plus 1. It's a 1 because 2x squared divided by 2x squared. I'm doing the same thing. Something divided by itself is 1. Next, I'm bringing down the minus sign, and I'm figuring out the GCF of 30x minus 5. Now, I know my GCF is going to be a negative number because I brought that minus sign down. So I'm going to be dividing by negative something. And we can use our brains or our calculators to find the GCF of 30 and 5. If you're not sure, which that one's kind of easy because 5 does go into 30. If you're not sure, you can go to Math Num 9 and do 30, 5. Again, just make sure that they are positive numbers. And it tells you 5, so my GCF is 5. But in this case, it's a negative 5 because we brought down that negative sign. So negative 30x divided by negative 5 is positive 6x. Negative 5 divided by negative 5 is positive 1. And we have our matching parentheses, so I can factor that out. So I pull out the 6x plus 1, and I'm left over with 2x squared minus 5. And that's our answer. Number 4. The GCF of 6 and 16 is going to be a 2. 2 is the biggest number that goes into both of those. And then the smaller exponent is the squared, so 2v squared. When I divide by 2v squared, I'm left with 3v minus 8. And then I bring down my plus sign. 21v minus 56. The GCF of 21 and 56 is going to be 7. Biggest number that goes into both of these is 7. Your GCF this time cannot have a variable because the 56 does not have a variable. So it's just 7. When I divide by 7, 21v divided by 7 is 3v. 56 divided by 7 is 8, so it's minus 8. And these match, so I pull that out. I have 3v minus 8 and a 2v squared plus 7. And that's our answer. Number 5, I've got 63n cubed plus 54n squared as my first group. So we can do Math Num 9, 63, 54. Math Num 9, 63, 54, enter, and we get 9. So my GCF of this group is 9n squared. So I'll divide by 9n squared. I am left with 63 divided by 9 is 7n plus 54 divided by 9 is 6. My n squareds cancel out. Next up, I have a negative GCF. I know that because I have a minus sign in between my two groups. So I'll be dividing by negative something. So I'm just going to put that there. The GCF of 105 and 90. I'll go Math Num 9, 105, 90, and I get 15. So my GCF is negative 15 that I'll be dividing by. Negative 105n divided by negative 15 is positive 7n, and negative 90 divided by negative 15 is positive 6. So I have 7n plus 6 and 9n squared minus 15, and that's my answer. Number 6, my GCF between 21k cubed and 84k squared. Well, 21 goes into 21 and 84, so it's 21k squared is my GCF. I picked k squared because that was the smaller of the two exponents. So I'll divide 21 divided by 21 is 1. K to the third divided by k squared is k to the first. Minus 84 divided by 21 is 4, and my k squareds cancel out. Then I bring down my plus sign. So plus the GCF of 15 and 60 is 15. There is no variable in this GCF because the 60 does not have a variable. So it's just a 15 I'm dividing by, giving me k minus 4. Now these match. If you remember, these ones that I'm highlighting in red are imaginary. They do not need to be there. So those do match. So I have k minus 4 and 21k squared plus 15. And that is our answer. Okay, we got 6 questions on the back. Number 7, I am dividing by the GCF of my first group, which a 5 is the biggest number that goes into 25 and 5, and also v squared, because that's my smaller of the two exponents. When I divide by 5v squared, I am left with 25 divided by 5, which is 5. V to the third divided by v squared is v to the first, plus 5v squared divided by 5v squared. It's something divided by itself, therefore it equals 1. Then I bring down my plus sign. And the GCF of 30 and 6 is 6. So I will be dividing by 6. No variable this time because the last term doesn't have a variable, therefore my GCF cannot have a variable. When I do 30v divided by 6, I get 5v, and 6 divided by 6 is 1. And now these match. These match, so I can pull them out. 5v plus 1, and I'm left over with 5v squared plus 6. Number 8, the GCF of 28 and 16 is going to be 4. So I can divide these by 4v squared. When I divide by 4v squared, I'm left with 7v plus 4. So v squareds cancel, and 16 divided by 4 is 4. Then bring down that minus sign. 21 and 12 have a GCF of 3. So I'll be dividing this group by negative 3. Negative 21v divided by negative 3 is positive 7v. Negative 12 divided by negative 3 is positive 4. And we have a match. So that gives me 7v plus 4 and 4v squared minus 3. Four more questions. Number 9. GCF of 4 and 12 is 4, and the smaller of the two exponents is squared, so I'm dividing by 4v squared. 4 divided by 4 is 1. V to the third divided by v squared is v to the first, minus 12 divided by 4 is 3, and my v squareds cancel. Bring down the minus sign in between the two groups. So that means my GCF is going to be a negative number, and 5 is the biggest number that goes into 5 and 15, so I will be dividing by negative 5. Negative 5v divided by negative 5 is positive 1v, and 15 divided by negative 5 is a negative 3. So now I have a match, so I can pull that out. So it's v minus 3 and 4v squared minus 5. Number 10, the biggest number that goes into 24 and 15 is going to be 3. So this is a GCF of 3p squared. When I divide by 3p squared, I get 8p plus 5. Then I bring down the minus. The GCF of my second group now is going to be 6. No. It's going to be 56. Let's check this. I feel like there's something wrong with this question. Math num 9. 56 comma 36. Oh, okay. So it's 4. This isn't going to work out. Because if my GCF of this group is negative 4, and I divide these by negative 4, 56 divided by 4 is 14. So this gives me 14p plus, and then if you do 36 divided by 4, that gives us a 9. These do not match. Since these don't match, we can't actually factor this. This is not factorable. So if you end up with your parentheses not matching, that means that it is not factorable. All right, number 11, we got 2 more questions. I have 16 and 4, so the biggest number that goes into both of those is 4. The letter that they both have in common is m, and the smaller exponent is the first one. It's m to the imaginary first power. I cannot put n in my GCF because this term does not have that letter. So only if they share the letters can it be in the GCF. So 16 divided by 4 is 4. My m's cancel and I'm left with n. Minus 4 divided by 4 is 1. My m squared divided by m to the first, if I'm subtracting my exponents, 2 minus 1 means that I still have m to the first power left. Then I bring down my plus sign. The GCF of 28 and 7 is 7. This GCF does not have any letters because they do not have the same letter. This one is missing the n, and this one is missing the m. So they have no letter in common, therefore it's just a 7 I'm dividing by, leaving me with 4n minus m. So now I have my matching parentheses, so 4n minus m times 4m plus 7. And that is our answer for that. And our last question, the biggest number that goes into 21 and 15 is going to be a 3. And they both share an x, so my GCF is 3x. When I divide by 3x, I get 7y, because the x's cancel, plus 15 divided by 3 is 5, and those x's also cancel. Then my GCF of 35 and 25 is 5, and they both share the letter r, so I can divide by 5r. 35 divided by 5 is 7, my r's cancel, leaving me with y, plus 25 divided by 5 is 5, so my r's cancel there as well. Now my parentheses match, so that gives me 7y plus 5 and 3x plus 5r. And we're done. Now you can do homework number 0.4.